Greetings, friend. I will show you how Simon Anthony of Cracking the Cryptic solved this diabolical puzzle from the UK Telegraph 2018. I'll explain all the Expert Sudoku tips, tricks, and strategies to you as I do it. I've also included some pause the video and what-if moments to help you analyze some alternate solve paths. Solve along with me by clicking on the link below, and with that, it's solving time. Okay, the first thing Simon did is he started looking and doing some Snyder notation. He noticed that there's a 1 here in column 2 and row 7. So there's only 2 places for a 1, so he made those marks right there. And then he noticed that these ones become a pointing pair, so there cannot be a 1 there anymore because they're limited to block 7 in column 1. And so he was able to mark 2 spots for a 1 right here, keeping in mind that there's a 1 right there in row 3. After that, he saw that there's a 6. His eyes were focused here, right? So row 2 and 1, there's a 6 and a 6 comes across, sees a 6, and is able to solve for 6 in row 3, column 7, and immediately looked again at the 6s, 6, 6, sees only 1 place for 6 in block 6, so row 4, column 9. After that, he switched over to the 4s. Notice this 4 right here, saw this 4, and but only 2 spots for 4 right here in block 5. And remember, Snyder notation, the key is any 3x3 block, you're going to mark the candidates where they only appear twice. That way, if you solve one of these cells, the other one you can immediately solve for that candidate. It's a cleaner way of doing notations, and it's what the expert solvers do in competition. Okay, after the 4s, he then switched over to the 5s, and notice there's 2 spots for 5 here in block 4. Made that mark, and then after the 5s, switched over and saw there's 2 spots for a 2. So I guess kind of came down here, saw 2, 2 spots for a 2 up there in block 2. Moved on to 1s down here. So you have 1 in column 8 and 9, 1 in row 7. So you see there's 1s are limited, these 2 spots here and these 2 spots there, but you see there's already 1 across row 7. Okay, after that, move over to the 3s. You see there's 3 coming down, 3 coming across row 9. Only 2 spots for 3 there. We're still going to mark that even though they're not aligned in the same row or column, but there's only 2 in that block. And then he was able to solve for a 6, right? So you see there's a 6. See these 2 6s, and so he solved for a 6 in row 9, column 5. Nice find there, and then continued marking 6s, working the way up into block 5 there. And then switched over to the 9s. And you can kind of see where his eyes are going. He's down here, he's making the marks, comes up here, and now as he came to the top here, he's like, okay, oh, 2 spots for 9, I'll do that. He didn't go sequentially. He didn't go like 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, and 5s. He's just kind of working around the grid and seeing opportunities and making that solve. And when you get more advanced, you can do that and just kind of keep playing, working through the solve. He actually even mentioned the idea of keeping on top of that. So when you make the marks, when you make a solve, look and see what kind of consequence there was, what kind of effect. So in this case, we were able to mark 6s now in block 5 because we solved that 6. And after making those marks, he saw the 6 in row 4 and the 2 6s there. So he marked the 6s here in block 4. And after the 6s in block 4, I looked and saw there's 2 spaces for a 1 across block 5 there. So we were able to make those marks for those 1s. And then went and switched over to 9s. Came across in here. And what he did is he saw, hey, look at this 9's coming down. So the 9s are like a claiming, you know, they're like a pointing pair. They're only going to be to these 2 spots here in block 6. And so by doing that, now the 9s can't be in any of these 2 spots. And he already had a 9 here in column 7. So only 2 spots for 9. So he's able to make that mark. And then continue on with the 9s. And he came back up and saw it. He actually saw this first, but he marked it this and then up here in block 6. Okay, after that, look and staying in block 6, he sees some 7s and makes those marks, and then cuts across and he looks and sees 3s are limited. He's like, oh, 3, 3, and 3, and so now these 3s are up another pointing pair, right? They can't be up here, so they're restricted to block 4 here in row 5. And so now that cuts out all the 3s across row 5 here in the middle block 5, which means he's able to solve, right? Because now the 3s are only left at that 1 spot. So that's the power of those pointing pairs. So he saw the 3 there, and because of the Snyder marks, he was able to solve for the 4 right away in row 6, column 4. And then he saw how the 3 had an effect, 3 and the 3 down here. And he's able to solve that for 3 right away in row 8, column 5. Then he made some more marks for the 3s over in block 9. After doing that, he kind of came back up and noticed, okay, 4 to 4, I can actually solve for 4 right here in row 4, column 3. And this brings us up to our first pause the video moment. So pause the video and see if you can identify a naked triple that's in column 3. Well, I'll give you a few seconds. Okay, congratulations to those of you who were able to spot it. For those of you who just want to enjoy the show, this is a common trick in like a UK Diabolical or New York Times Hard. You'll notice there's 3 cells here, right? The 3, the 8, and the 4. 3 candidates. And then there's this 5, 6, and 9 right here. So they're not in line with this column. And they're 3 different digits. Well, that means you have 3 digits here, 3 digits here. You need 3 more to make 9. These 3 have to be a naked triple. And so what 3 candidates would those 3 be? And it would be a 1, 2, and a 7. So 1, 2, and 7, and then this would just be a 2 and a 7. So right there you can see that this is a naked triple. And if you can spot those kind of things, now it's going to place a lot of restriction on the rest of this column. Once you know that this is a 1, 2, or 7, you can eliminate the 2's from here, from this spot, and then you can eliminate 2 and a 7 from this spot. And this is going to be another naked triple. It'll actually be like 5, 6, 9 down here, and it can lead to some more solving. So I wanted to point that out to you. Let's get back to the main solve. Okay, so Simon doesn't pick out the 1, 2, 7 right away, naked triple. He will eventually get to that point later in the puzzle, but after getting that 4 in row 4, column 3, he marks some 4s up here in block 1. So right there in block 1, and then Simon looks at the 2's and notices down here, like, where can the 2 be in row 4? So he's kind of starting to look at some of these houses, which is a row, column, or block, that are mostly filled in, and see what he can put right there. So he marks the 2's right there, and after the 2's, looks at 5's and notices that the 5's are now restricted to this spot, which actually makes a pointing pair. See how this 5 comes up column 9 or row 1? So these 5's are limited now, column 8, and so they're going to be in block 3, column 8. And so now the 5's can't be here or here. 5's are limited to one of these 3 spots. But he didn't mark it because the Snyder, you're only going to mark if there's 2 available, not 3. But that is a helpful pointing pair again. So after the 5's, then he finds some 3's. And I think he's kind of looking up in this area, and this, oh, this 3's coming across, and this 3's coming down. Some people kind of call this going through the gate. What's nice about it is now you have 2 here, and the 3, so now the 3's are a pointing pair. So if they're a pointing pair and they have to be up here in block 1, this could no longer be a 3. So he's able to solve the 3 over here. And after solving the 3, he notices now the 2 is limited to just 2 spots. So he makes those 2's. And then he makes a really good find looking in here. He looks at some restrictions across column 1, and he goes, what can this cell be? It can't be a 1, can't be a 2, 3 or 4, can't be a 5, can't be a 6, 7. It could be an 8, but not a 9. So he finds right here naked single 8. And I thought it was a really good find because you have to look across this row, up this column to find all the digits. And so it's one of those harder naked singles to find. I'll put a link to my single cell solving methods video, and you can check that out. And you'll notice that when a predominant amount of cells are in one house, it's easier to spot those naked singles. But as you have to kind of look through a row all the way across or look in a block, it can be hard to spot these. So Simon did a good job there, find those. Sometimes you might get stuck. Go and try to see if you can find a naked single somewhere. We see a lot of cells putting some restrictions in there. Okay, after solving that 8 naked single, he marks some 8's up here. And this is something Simon's done before. So when you're making the Snyder marks, and it's like, oh, the 3's are only in these 2 spots, the 8's are only in those 2 spots, that's actually going to be a hidden pair. And they're going to restrict to those 2 spots. Well, this 4 has no place. It can't be in there anymore because it has to be a 3 or an 8 here and here. So he's able to solve that for a 4. So if you see that kind of notation, you can immediately remove that extra digit and solve it for wherever it is in the block. Okay, so there, after solving that 4, he marks 4s down here. He's kind of working his way down because he knows with this 3/8 what kind of restrictions I have. Well, 2 spots for 4. Then he finally sees the naked triple because now he has his 3/8s here, and he goes, "Oh, this is a 1, 2, 7 naked triple." And so now the 1s and 2s and 7s are pointing down this way. And so after seeing a naked triple, it's like, "Oh, well, 2 has to be right here in column 3. This can no longer be a 2." So he can solve for the 2 right there in row 5, column 2. So he does a nice job there. Works down again and notices that the 7s are in the same columns and rows as the 4s going into block 7. So this creates a hidden pair for 7. And why is it a hidden pair? Because you could, in theory, put other digits here, but when you have this cross-hatching going like this and it leaves only 2 remaining, that's a nice little hidden pair. Mark those up because it will help you do more further solving. Very common technique there. So after that, he then looks and notices, okay, I got a 1 and a 2 left. Well, here's a 2 in row 8, so I can solve the 2 in row 9, column 1, and then the 1 in row 8, column 1. After solving that, he'd make these Snyder marks over here, so immediately solve the 1 in row 9. Column 7 finishes out the naked pair that's remaining in block 7, and after that, he's getting a little stuck. He doesn't really see where to go from here. But then he says, okay, I'm going to look across row 6 and see if there's any restrictions. And this brings us up to our second pause the video moment. There is a naked single here in row 6. So pause the video and see if you can find the naked single in row 6. Well, I'll give you a few seconds. Okay, congratulations if you spot it. You're getting really good at these single cell solving methods. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, the single naked single is right here in row 6, column 7. This can only be a 7. You see 1, 2, can't be 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, or 9. It has to be a 7. And so Simon found that, and he was able to move on with some solving. All right, so after finding the 7 in row 6, column 7, Simon marks some 5s down here, in block 9, and then he is able to immediately go back and say, hey, wait a minute, this is a naked single 5. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And so for the third time, he figures out a naked single using digits from for multiple rows and columns there. So nice job there. So he solves that 5 right away. And then really neat find here. He looks down and says, what can this cell be? And he goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This can be an 8, 9, right? So this cell 8 or 9. And then he looks up here and says, what can this cell be? And if you look at it, it can also only be an 8 or 9. So there's an actual naked pair right here and here. Row 5, column 8, and row 9, column 8. And so he says, well, since an 8 or 9 have to be in these 2 spots, this cell here cannot be a 9. So if that can't be a 9, the only place for a 9 in block 6 is row 5, column 8. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. I like the way he did a deduction there. That was kind of nice. And after that, he just marks the 2, 8, finishes off the naked pair here. I mean, there's only 1 spot left across row 4, so he solves that for a 9. He doesn't go up right away and get this mark, though. He changes directions, and he marks some more 9s down here. He says, oh, I see this 9. It comes down, and so he looked down at the bottom of the grid in block 8 and puts 2 9s right there. And after doing that, he notices, oh, the 9s are limited to row 7 here in block 7 and 8, and then the 9s are limited to row 9 in block 7 and 8. So the 9s can't be in row 8 in either of those. So the 9 has to be in row 8 in block 9. This is a pretty common pattern here. Basically, this ends up being, well, a claiming digit or a claiming pair will be a hidden single because you can't put 9s in any of those 2 spots. So he's able to solve that 9 in row 8, column 9, moves on and solves, comes back here and says, oh, this then can only be a 7, right? 4 or 7, here's a 4, that has to be a 7. So he's able to solve 7 and solve the 4. After he solves the 4, he actually marks, he doesn't solve this 7 right away, but he marks some 4s coming up here. So he goes back to Snyder marking. After making those 4s, he marks some 6s up here, and then you find again naked pair, 5-9. The 6 is extra, so that 6 can't be the solution to that cell. So he's able to solve for the 6 right above it in row 5, column 3, and then cuts across and solves for the 6 in row 6, column 6. Marks some 7s in row in block 5 there in row 5, columns 4 and 5. Moves on to up here and remembers, oh yeah, hey, that can only be a 9, only one spot there, so he solves it for the 9, then comes back down here and remembers, oh yeah, 8, 9, naked pair, that has to be your 8. So he solves that for an 8, which discombobulates or disambiguates these cells up there, the 8 and the 2 in block 6. Then there's 2s that he marks to finish off. So you have like a 2, 3, 4 naked triple now going on here in block 9. So the 2s. Then he goes up column 9 and marks the 8s up there in column 9. And marks one more thing with the 8s. He comes back down here. Still not seeing anything obvious because this puzzle is not cracked. You still need an advanced technique to get through. So he puts the 8s right there in block 8. And then he marks these 5s in block 8. And he says, I'm not seeing anything obvious. And so it'll bring us up to our first what if moment. And the what if, Simon started looking for uniqueness. What could he have done here? And I'll take you that right now. Okay, so in the comments, there are several people that noted that Simon could have solved this cell right here at this moment in the puzzle. He could have solved it for an 8. And one of the comments was from Sam Kappelman Lyons, expert solver, expert setter. I've featured him before. I'll probably put a link to one of his puzzles at the end here, just give him that shout out. But he said that out of uniqueness, this, if this is not an 8, then because of you have the 5, 9 here, 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 here. If this was a 5, then you'd have a 9, 5, 9, 5, 9. You could go back, solve the puzzle, go back, and you'd just swap the 9s with 5s, and you'd have 2 solutions to the puzzle. That can't happen. And it's normally not the case if you have these and they're not in the same row, but since you have these 2 up here, it kind of creates this deadly pattern loop. And so people point that out. Simon does not like solving the puzzles with uniqueness. He thinks that there's other ways to do that. But if the puzzle has a unique solution, like this one did, you can do it. So you could have solved right here, you could have just solved that for an 8 right off the bat and moved on with the rest of the puzzle. But he didn't do that. So let's go back and see what Simon did. All right, so Simon did not find this deadly pattern. So he comes up, he's like, I got to mark some bi-value cells. So he looks up column 7, goes, okay, this is a 2, 3. This has to be a 2, 3. So he marks that. And then he's looking around in block 3 and goes, oh, this can only be a 2, 8. And then he sees it. He has a eureka moment. Maybe you see it too. He finds an XY wing. He calls them a Y wing, but he finds the advanced strategy needed to crack this part of the puzzle. So do you see it? I'll give you a hint. Here is the pivot. All right, here's one of the pinchers. Here's the other pincher, right? So what Simon put together is like, this is a 2, that'd be an 8. If this was a 3, that'd be an 8. So any cell that sees both the orange can't be an 8. So he realizes this cannot be an 8. And so you can solve this cell for an 8 and move on with the puzzle. You do need to find that to move forward. There's not really, other than doing the uniqueness thing down here, there's really not another way to get through it. This was probably the intended logic and what made this a diabolical puzzle. Okay, after solving this 8, Simon starts finding a way forward and moving with this puzzle really quickly. So first he looks over and says, okay, I got a 7 and 8 here in column 5. So that's a 7 and that's an 8 in the middle. And then he finds the 1 in row 5, column 6, and the 7 in row 4, column 4. Moves up and goes, okay, the only place left for a 1 in column 4 is row 2, column 4. So he solves that. Then solves the 1 in row 1, column 3. Then a 2 in row 2, column 3. And the 7 in row 3, column 3. Which helps him cut across, okay, 7, 7. And there's only one spot left for a 7 over here in block 3, so he's able to mark that 7. in row 1, column 8, and then the 3 in row 3, column 8. Works his way back over, and he's kind of working all these cells up here in the top right now, right? Because all that Snyder is now paying off. But first he goes down and solves this 3, 4, and 2, then comes back up, my bad, and solves that 4 in row 1, column 9, because it was a naked single, and then the 2 to finish off the block. Solves the 2 here, and then solves the 3 in row 1, column 2, then the 8 in row 3, column 2, and finishes out the 8 in block 2, and then also the 5. And sees that you make this 5 and this 5. Now there's only one spot left for a 5 down here in block 8. So he solves for the 5 in row 7, column 6. Solves for the 9 in row 9, column 4. Solves for the 8 in row 7, column 4. Then the 9 over in row 7, column 3. Then he picks the 5 in row 9, column 2. Solves the other 5. The 9 in row 6, column 2. And finishes off with that 7 in row 7, column 2. Check out these other great solving analysis videos I did of Simon, plus the promised video for Sam Kaplan lines. Don't forget to buy me a coffee link. Thank you so much for watching.